and welcome to Taboo Talk, the podcast brought to you by Boots that ask the seriously awkward health and wellness questions so you don't have to. I'm your host, Vogue Williams, and today we're talking about being sober curious, a term that refers to a growing trend of people who are choosing either to take a break from alcohol for a short period of time or even permanently. I'm joined by three incredibly inspiring guests who have given up the booze. First up is Millie Gooch. Millie is the founder of Sober Girls Society, the world's largest community for sober women. Starting university in 2009, she used binge drinking as a coping mechanism to deal with anxiety and insecurities, eventually causing financial, physical and mental health stress, which led her to quit alcohol altogether in 2018. Since then, she's become one of the leading voices amongst the UK's sobriety community, sharing her personal accounts and struggles to inspire others. Also with us today is Scott Thomas, former Love Islander, director of the social PR, businessman and TV presenter who admitted himself into therapy after a blowout that almost cost him his business in December 2019. He's remained sober ever since and started his own podcast series, Learning As I Go, sharing his self-development journey and the intricacies of sobriety, as well as sharing his experience on Instagram with over 1 million followers. And we have a super special guest joining the pod today, none other than my husband, Spencer Matthews. It's common knowledge that he has had his own struggles with alcohol, so when I found out we were covering the topic on Taboo Talk, I knew we had to get him on. Thanks so much for joining me, Millie, Scott and Spencer. Please do note, as always, my guests are speaking from their own personal experience, and if you are struggling with your own relationship with alcohol, please do seek medical or professional help about how you should cope, as there can be risks involved. What do you call yourself, actually? That's a good starting point.
That's a very good starting point. Well, when I first went sober the first year, I never said that I was going to be like fully sober because I didn't want to be the boring sober guy.
Yeah.
And then I did 1 year sober, then did 2 years of like kind of trying to find my moderation. And I went, oh no, I can't find it. So this time I've said I'm fully sober because I want to create those life skills. Whereas last time I didn't. I just went, I'm not going there. I'm not doing this. So this time, well, I'm not saying it's forever. I just want to get to a certain point in life where I want to reach my potential and then maybe go, do you know what? I can kick back and have a couple of drinks now. But for me, it was like, it's stopping myself from getting there.
Yeah.
Sorry, that wasn't a very short answer.
Well, what about you?
Me?
Yeah.
Are you unaware of what I am doing?
Spenno, everyone else is unaware. Spenny's my husband, so I obviously know.
I am married to the host.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've been everything. I've been drunk. I've been teetotal. I'm certainly sober curious. I'm sober most of the time. So like I have found.
Thankfully.
Yeah. So I've gone from problem drinking on a daily basis to. The word enjoying a drink is actually even wrong. To just having a drink if I feel like it, I suppose, very irregularly, to the point where I no longer see it as a problem. I have great balance in my life. I'm able to achieve the things that I set myself as goals. Fortunate to be very busy. So, you know, I think my triggers when I used to drink excessively were, and I very rarely use the word trigger, but anyway, I would drink excessively because I was bored and almost unambitious because I didn't love what I did at the time. I was on a reality TV show that I didn't have kind of much respect for, really. I didn't really love it. And I had nothing else going on for me. I had this inflated ego at the time and believed that I could just breeze through life and just drank excessively all of the time. But now with kind of responsibilities and children with you and lots of work that I find really fulfilling and you know, etc. I don't really think about drinking that often.
I was going to say, you can take it or leave it, basically.
Yeah. So I never really think about it.
That's a new thing, though, for you. So even when we went to an event the other night and like you had a glass of champagne, I was like, oh God, because you come out and talk about being sober, that then like, I know you probably don't feel it, but I'm like, oh my God, not everyone knows. So they probably think that like he's fallen off the
I get it all the time.
something.
I get people coming up to me on a night out going, you're drinking, you're not real. And then you look at it, it's like a 0.0% like alcohol beer, do you know what I mean? But it's like, people are always trying to catch you out. But I think I want to kind of get to that point because I was speaking to this guy recently. He runs 1 year no beer. And he drinks. I went, what? You drink and you run this? And he was like, yeah, because I don't believe in abstinence. I want to get to the point, I've got to the point where I can take it or leave it. He says, I will get to that moment where if I go on a big night out, I'm going to be written off for a week. He goes, how often am I going to want to do that?
Yeah.
I'm not really going to want to do that. So I'll think about it. And I think I don't. For me, like I can go on holiday now and not drink, and I sit in a bar and I go, I don't even want to drink. I don't. But it's still that thing holding over me, telling me that I can't do it.
Yeah.
Where I don't want to live the rest of my life like that. If that makes sense.
We were on holiday recently. Sorry, Millie.
No, you're all right.
So we were on holiday recently. In a place where ordinarily a few years ago we would have drank every day, I reckon, and we had.
Well, I wouldn't have. Like, let's be honest. I'm a one-hit wonder. I can't. I've never been a massive drinker.
Right, okay.
Millie, I read yours, and sorry, I'm going to go back to that now in 1 second.
No, I was just going to say, like, I had one glass of champagne for the entire week that we were there, and so did you, and it felt like a nice
we
little
felt
special.
so smug.
Yeah, but it was like a nice
Nice.
little special thing to do, but it was kind of still in bed early and still out with the kids.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
like I feel very fortunate to have found that level of balance, because before I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
Like the one glass would have turned into
All or
10.
nothing, yeah.
Yeah.
And it would have been out all night.
Yeah.
And then the following day you'd feel just really like
Desperate.
numbed, and to the point where you almost feel like having a little beer just to kind of get through that day type thing. And that was the really harsh, excessive cycle of abusive drinking that I fell into for many years.
Yeah.
But I'm just not there anymore, so I just feel
Amazing.
okay with it.
Yeah, Millie, you are what I describe myself as you were a binge
Yeah,
drinker.
yeah,
You
yeah.
felt like that's what I do. Every couple of weeks, I'm like, oh God, I'll have a drink, but I wouldn't have one because I don't like the taste of it.
Yeah.
So I'll like nail like 10, and then I want to die for the
Yeah.
next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I don't drink very often. But was that what made you want to go sober? Just because you realised you were just binge drinking all the time?
Yeah, I think so. And like kind of what you were saying. So there is actually a theory or like a school of thought that some people are actually natural moderators and some people are natural abstainers. So for like someone like me, I think I'm a natural abstainer. It's easier for me to say, no, I'm not going to have any, than open the door, have one or two, and then it just carries on to 3 or 4 or 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Whereas for some people, the idea of like going completely abstinent is just wild. So they tend to be natural moderators. So binge drinking was like the big thing for me. I like you said, I wasn't even really that bothered by the taste of alcohol. It was like I just want to get absolutely obliterated, and then just spend the next like 4 to 6 days just completely hungover, like so anxious, and then just doing it all again.
You mentioned that I know exactly what this feels like, that you had anxiety.
Yeah.
What's that like?
The worst feeling ever. So it's kind of twofold anxiety. So you've got the actual chemical effects of alcohol and the way that kind of affects neurochemistry. But then for me, I would black out. So I wouldn't remember like huge parts of my night, like you said, like getting home or like what I did, what I said. Is everyone annoyed at me? So it was like twofold of waking up the next day and being like, I don't remember how I got home. I don't remember who I spoke to. I don't remember what I said.
Oh, it's the
and then
worst.
getting texts from people being like, oh my God, you were so funny last night. You're like, oh my God. But it was like awful, but also really serious. Like it was,
It's
I think I can
dangerous
laugh
as
at it now.
well.
But yeah, especially like, as I was like a young woman, I was not remembering how I'd got home. Like it had consequences for me. And looking back now, like I feel like it's one of the best things I've ever done, just to not have that worry of like kind of safety and how I got home. That's like a really big thing for me.
I think
Yeah.
it's funny on that though, because I used to send texts out to people
Yeah.
just in case.
Yeah,
Like
I
I'd
used to
send
do
like,
that.
oh, how was last night, mate? Just to see if they were still speaking to me.
And if they didn't reply within half an hour, I'd be like, they hate me. That was it. I embarrassed myself.
Spenny,
Yeah.
when he gave up, he'd be like, do you remember? And I'd be like, don't even say it to me. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
It's the worst. But you say that to me as well. You're like, if I got anxious like you do the day after drinking, like I'd never drink, and I don't know why I do it. So I know we're talking about sober curious and stuff as well with this. I feel like I'm trying to just be more sober.
I think in
But
reality,
I'd miss it if it was forever. As you said, I wouldn't want to feel like you can't do it, like you can never do it again. Do you not find it to be a big constraint on you to say that you'll never do it again?
Yes and no. And I think it's so personal. And that's a big thing to note when we're talking about drinking problems and issues with drinking. Everyone's is so unique. So the treatment for it or the way people go about their drinking, everyone has different reasons for drinking, different genetic things that make up whether we want to drink more or not. So it's so subjective. So everyone should kind of do their own thing with it. I think is like a really kind of big thing to know.
I think the ideal is having a balanced, kind of healthy relationship with alcohol. And just to be clear, there's no benefits whatsoever to drinking alcohol, and millions of people, particularly younger people, are completely understanding that in order to put their health first, alcohol is a kind of irrelevance to their lives. If you can find, most people are able to moderate their alcohol. I'm talking about kind of when you fall into really bad habits and it's a problem, and the problems are beginning to have a negative effect on your relationships and your work and your character, your personality, and it's beginning to become an issue. You know, you don't really get people that don't have drinking problems who think that they might have a drinking problem. If you think that you have a drinking problem, you have a drinking problem. You know, so it's kind of like, I knew I had a drinking problem. Was teetotal for 3 years, something like that. Long enough to build my business, CleanCo, and really enjoy like a prolonged stint of clarity and wellness and total abstinence, to then be able to say, you know what, I kind of feel like having a glass of champagne with my wife or something, and I'm just going to see how it goes. And so far, so good. And if I felt like it ever became a problem again, you take the foot off the gas. But I honestly feel like I've achieved balance.
Oh, see, exactly where you are now is where I'm trying to get to. So I think the main reason I stopped drinking was because I'm really driven by success, right? It's just one of my values. I want to be successful. I want to reach my potential. And alcohol was like slowing me down, and it was also prohibiting me from getting there. So for me, it's like when I say I'm not drinking now, I don't want to say it's forever because I might
It's a huge hill to climb.
Yeah, it is.
And you're almost gearing up for disappointment.
Yeah.
For somebody who's so driven like you, who is so keen on success, same as me. Like I'm wildly driven. So to say I'm never going to touch alcohol again, you will arrive at a place probably where you'll go, I probably could drink, but given that I've set this in my head that I shouldn't drink, and it becomes this problem.
Do you have a date or a time, or like you said you were sober for a year and then you're kind of toying with it? Like
no, so for this time round, I'm not even like putting a time limit on it because, like I said last time, I did a year and then I just basically didn't like develop any of the social skills. I sort of didn't go to this place. I did go on dates and they were really tough. Like they're like sober dates, so they're like job interviews. Like really, like I've kind of like mastered them out a little bit now. I don't go to the bars and restaurants. I go on like dog walks or whatever else. It's a little bit different, but they were really tough. And even now, like I went out the other night and like I rarely go to a nightclub. But my mates dragged me out and it was just like I just didn't have no chat, and it was just like, you know, just like, but I want to develop that kind of those kind of social skills.
Do you find people like, because obviously when I was pregnant I wasn't drinking, but I found I could stand people till about like 11:30, and then I'd be like, you're unbearable, like it's because people change, and I know that's me as well, so I'm not judging them, because when I drink I'm probably that annoying too.
I was the worst.
Yeah, but like, do you find that when you go out that there's just a point where you're like, you know, I think I have to go home, I want to be sociable, but like you're so annoying?
I'm constantly going for breathers. Like I put my 7 tips out for sobriety the other day.
I saw that.
And one of them was just don't be scared to go for a little breather. I am constantly just like having a little chat with him, and I'm just getting off, walking around the block, just like recalibrating, like having a little breather and then just going back, because I cannot sit there like intense chat for that amount of time. And I want to get to that point, and I'm getting stronger and stronger. But again, last time I didn't acquire those skills, whereas now and also confidence. Like I was the most confident guy in the room when I had a drink. I'd be like Michael Jackson, Chris Brown in the middle of the dance floor, like with my top off. Like, but now, like people think I'm confident in so many different ways, but I don't have that natural confidence in certain situations. And I'm just trying to build that up like naturally. And I think that's why I call sobriety a superpower, because I partied with this guy for years, and I always thought he was drunk. For 5 years, I always thought he was drunk. And then one night I went, mate, do you want this? He went, I don't drink, mate. I went, you're taking a piss. So I said, you've been out with us all these years and you've never drank, and you're that confident. And he went, mate, I'm just high off life. I said, you're a Superman. I said, you're a superhero. And it's like, I think to me, sobriety is a superpower. However, should you live the rest of your life with something holding over you, it's not how I necessarily want to go for the rest of my life. But like I said, I want to get to the point where Spencer is, where kind of achieved a lot, and I've seen what you've done with CleanCo and everything else, and rightly so. Like if you want to be able to have a little glass of champagne, then why not?
Yeah. What made you decide to go sober?
Oh, every Monday morning I'd be driving to the gym like hungover, battered, like why have I done this to myself again? But I was a nightmare when I drunk. Like people, like I became a different person. I'm so like calm and collected now, but when I was drunk I was unfiltered. I could be quite nasty, not like aggressive or anything like that, but I was just like full on. Like I would tell you exactly what I thought in that moment, and I could upset people. But then also the biggest moment for me was I got escorted out of one of my work events. So I've got a PR agency and we work with some big clients. And I went out the night before to try and take the wind out of my sails, because I had this chairman's luncheon. That's what I do. Everything was calculated. Got out the night before to try and make sure I wasn't all pent up. And I basically woke up, I was late, and I was pretty much half cooked when I turned up to this chairman's luncheon. And I went in there and I ended up just getting escorted out for being just so drunk. I think I had like one of the directors in a headlock, just like, come here you, and all that. And I woke up the next day, my team knew all about it. Like my business partner didn't want to speak to me. I nearly lost my biggest client. Oh, no. And I was just like, wow, this can't go on anymore, because it was being drunk had affected my social life and personal relationships, but it was the first time it affected my work, and I had such a great year at work, and it just undid everything. I was like, wow, this can't happen. So I flew over to Abu Dhabi on my own. I had this moment where I was like studying the ocean, like, you know, when you just know you're going to do it this time.
Yeah.
And I had this pebble in my hand. I was like, I wanted to hold this pebble just to remember that feeling.
I saw that post as well.
Yeah. Do you know when you just want to remember it? You go, because something comes over, you go, I've got goosebumps now. You go, you know, this is it. I'm going to do 12 months sober. I just knew it because, I think, I say to people, what does it take? I say, it takes one decision, but you've got to really mean it. And it sounds so, do you know what I mean? Like, on those Monday mornings in the car, I didn't really mean it.
You say it so many times, you're like, I'm never drinking again. Everyone's like, oh.
Yeah.
I say it literally every time I drink.
Weekend, When I told my friends, like, I actually wasn't drinking, they were like,
how did you come to that point, though, to come sober?
It was kind of the same. Like, I just, every single weekend was really destructive. Like you said, I was a different person when I was drinking. Like now I'm quite reserved and quite chilled out and quite an introvert. You would, when you saw me on a dance floor, you'd be like, I don't even know that person. Like, I got escorted out of Oceana in a headlock. Like, that was my low point. But I carried on. I wouldn't leave. I would not leave the dance floor, and the club was closing.
I feel
And
disappointed in my story now.
Yeah, I know.
You've been escorted out in headlocks.
My friends had to go and ask the bouncer to remove me, and I would not leave. And I was like, I want to stay. Like, just a different person. But I've learned so much about the science of alcohol and the way it affects you, and it literally makes you more caveman. So it makes you want to drink more, eat more, fight more, all of those things. And you get this they call it myopic thinking, where you can only really focus on the things in front of you, so you can't think about making rational decisions or the difference between right or wrong. You just think all these things are a really great idea. So that's
but it's difficult though, because my best stories though are when I was drunk, and I miss that little bit. I miss the craziness. Like, all my best stories. I mean, Wayne Lineker comes up to me today and says, "You've set the record, Scott. No one's beat you. You got escorted out of Ocean Beach 3 times in one day." And I remember it.
Why was he letting you back in?
Because it was my night. It was my night.
Pay back in every time.
So I used to do nightclub events. That's what I used to do. I was just saying to you before, I actually paid Spencer years ago to come down to my night. I remember meeting him. It was hilarious. But anyway, so my fondest moments in life, which is pretty sad, and when I'm with the boys even now, we just talk about, do you remember when we did that? And that's the bit where I go, I'm not going to get that again. It's really, and people go, what do you do now for fun? And I go, it's not the same. I play paddle tennis. I'm obsessed with that. I get a buzz out of that.
It's great.
It's amazing, right? And that's the one thing that I look forward to more than anything else. But I don't have that same it's escapism, right? It's escaping from yourself. When you're so driven and when you're 100 miles an hour all the time, and maybe it links back to being having ADHD, because apparently you're always in fight or flight mode. Yeah. You don't have that natural switch off. So for me,
I like, you know, that I like to every so often. It's like we call you get a goo. In Ireland, that's what we say. You get the goo, and you get the goo. So you're just like, I just want to get absolutely deranged.
That's a great saying.
you just want to
get the goo.
I think
you though. Sorry, your sober journey was different. You were always a really nice drunk. You were never annoying. Spenny could literally drink 2 bottles of wine, and he wouldn't think he was drunk. I'd drink a glass of wine, and I'd have to be carried home. Where
if I could do that, I'd still be drinking.
Fergie used to fall asleep in public sometimes, which was always entertaining.
Many a time.
But what was I going to say? I think if we weren't married, if I wasn't married to somebody that has ultimately a really great relationship with alcohol, in that you don't really enjoy it, I think my journey would have been more difficult. The fact that you don't crack open a bottle of wine every night with dinner or whatever is very helpful to me, because it's not really ever in our house, which is helpful. With obviously the 3 kids and 2 dogs is quite hectic. I knew I had your moment of complete clarity, where I knew I was going to do a really sustained length of teetotalism when it was really beginning to affect, I would drink on my own, at night. So if you weren't around or whatever, I'd have a whiskey whilst watching a film at home or something like that. And then I'd have another whiskey. And all of a sudden you're going to bed drunk. And it's why am I, and eventually it was just kind of and that wasn't kind of every night, but it was, you'd have a few beers.
What was your moment, though, that you were... I'm actually trying to think.
I had a bottle of whiskey and struggled to get myself to bed one night. Hadn't even been out, nothing to celebrate.
I think that was when I was away.
Yeah, you were away. I think you were in you were in Hong Kong. You were in the States, Hong Kong or something. Yeah. And I was just hammered drunk. Got into bed, and I remember just like waking up the next day, and I was like, okay, I don't need this in my life like at all. Like, what am I doing drinking on my own like this? And I always had jobs where like being able to handle your drink really well was a huge bonus. Like I was a trader at ICAP, like we would drink 5 to 10 pints every single day, and then like take clients out at night. And if you couldn't do that, you wouldn't get the job, basically. Like it was a huge boozy system. Then Made in Chelsea was pretty boozy as well. And it was just kind of like breaking that bad habit. Also, as you start to get older, like I'm 35 now. I was 19 then. It's different. When I was 19, I could drink a bottle of vodka on a night out. Absolutely no worries. Be up at 8 a.m. the following day. No worries. No hazy head. Like I never really felt hungover. But like, drink a bottle of vodka when you're 35, you're gonna know about it.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how horrible that would feel right now?
Just give me the
But
shit.
again, do you not think the alcohol? So obviously, because we're quite driven stuff. So my job was being a professional party boy.
Yeah.
So anything I do, I want to be the best at. So I was the craziest guy in the room. I was the guy out till midday the next day, dancing around kitchens, like because that was part of being the ultimate promoter, right?
Yeah.
And then basically, I feel like to become that's what I try to do. Whereas now, when I developed, I want to become the best in my business and the industry that I'm in. Those habits no longer suited that direction.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like there was always that conflict going, wait a second, people expect me to be the Scotty Special.
Scotty Special.
The Scotty Special is the
Is that available online?
yeah. Well, my name on Instagram for years was Scotty Special. I had to change it recently because that was my alter ego.
Yeah.
So I was clinging on. When I used to sit down with my therapist, I went, yeah, but people expect me to be Scotty Special. I actually thought when I walked in a club that everybody was looking at me, waiting for me to get on the bar and stuff like that. The pressure that I put on myself.
Yeah.
And now sometimes I can't live up to sobriety Scott. Like it's almost like, do you know what I mean? Because you put so much pressure on that as well.
Yeah.
So I think. Again, I just want to get to the point where I'm just a lot more relaxed. Now, I feel like when I watch your stuff, you seem to be in that place where, like, you don't seem to be restraining yourself. It's just like you've understood who you are and what you want.
Yeah, I think it's been so it'll be 6 years in Feb that I haven't drunk, and so it's taken
amazing.
a while to get there.
Yeah, 2018, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but I, like you were saying about the confidence and the not socialising, like I think a lot of people when they first stop drinking, especially if they try with like a dry January, they're like, I'm not going out. And that's all well and good, but then you're not like building those skills, like you said. It's more like isolation. And the confidence for me, I used to get all of my confidence from alcohol.
Yeah.
But then when you're always relying on something else, you don't build that within yourself. So I literally had no confidence unless I was drinking. So like over the last 6 years, I think you build this like library of experiences. Every time I like do a festival sober or I do a wedding sober, I'm like, that's great, I can do it. And then
Weddings
the next
a big
one's just
one.
easier. Weddings are the biggest one because they're long.
I hate
They are
weddings
long
anyway.
days,
Stag do's. I
yeah.
did a stag do.
And
Did
it's
you
so
say you
much
hate
free
weddings
booze.
anyway?
I hate weddings.
Yeah, we do
Yeah.
avoid it.
Yeah, they're the hardest. I think weddings, stag do's, hen do's. Once you start like ticking them off, everything gets easier, and then you're like, I can do this. And I think you do settle into like, it's my normality now.
Do you find though when you all gave up drinking, like if I go out in Ireland and I'm literally like, no, I'm not drinking tonight, like the amount that everyone's like, no, you are drinking, like it's like really gonna affect their night. Do
Yeah.
you find did your friends or anything?
Oh, at first it was so difficult. People were like, why are you not drinking? But I went out the other night, and now it's been a certain period of time. People like come up to you and respect you so much. Like they're looking at you almost like you can see the pain in their eyes, going, "I want to be like you." Like,
Will you become your pal, the superhero?
I think no.
So we're
I think
not-
I'm on my way to getting there, but I'm not at the point where I'm literally enjoying every aspect of the night.
Yeah.
Like I went out there. And to be fair, I was at ease. I was a lot more at ease than I used to be, and I had no urge to drink.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be like dancing on the dance floor yet. And just being like
Yeah.
fully in the moment, which I think is a part of.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because we're friends with Steph Ellswood, and she's like crazy. She's sober, and she's like, you see her videos and stuff. She's always like dancing and whatever else, and she's just carefree. But I'd like to get to that point. But I think over time, yes, at first your friends will be questioning you like, why are you not drinking? But when they start to see all the progress you made, you see your business move, you see you in great shape, everybody stops asking those questions and starts to understand.
I think most people look at sobriety as like what they're going to lose instead of what they're going to gain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a real shame, because actually the gain is like anybody who's done any length of abstinence, you know, whether it be for a week or a month or a year or whatever, will tell you that your life like invariably changes for the better. Like there's never any negative element of being sober apart from potentially feeling like you're missing out on certain social events. But that's exactly why, you know, I think we live in a really interesting time where alternatives are really good. Like non-alcoholic beer is amazing.
You know what you said about people are starting to come up to you and be like, I want to do that with like hen do's, particularly if I go there and there's like friends with the bride that I don't actually know, they start off, I know, like being a bit weird about me because they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm not sure about her. She's probably going to be really boring. By the end, they're like, oh my God, like I want to be sober because like I've seen you have fun all weekend. Like, how do I do that?
But it's like even Svenny and I did sober October really, and like I drank once during it, but I wasn't hungover the next day, so I kind of like that doesn't count to me. I'd love to get to a point where I can drink, but like I don't want to be hungover the next day because it really affects your life. And that whole month of October, I was so smug. Like I did so much stuff. I was just on it. It was so good to feel like that. And it's just funny how like you can try and like toy with it. There's lots of people that will be listening to this that are gonna try and toy with being sober. I think there's a lot of people that want to.
It depends how you look at growth as well. It's kind of like, you know, it used to be that we would have so much fun, in inverted commas, being out all the time, and that would be considered, you know, what we should be doing with our time. Whereas when you pump the brakes on the booze, you're up earlier, you've got a clearer head, you've got more time in your day. It's just interesting, like it's the weekend coming up. It's Friday at the time of recording this, and we will be in bed this evening reading at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And like,
Can't wait.
I can't wait. Like, I actually can't wait. I don't think it's lame. I don't think it's boring, because tomorrow morning I'm going to wake
It's a bit
up.
lame.
It's a little lame, but that's if you think that drinking is cool. Which,
No, but
know.
you wake up and you like, and you've got the whole day ahead of you. There's one word, right? There's a question about this, but so lots of people don't like using the word addiction. How do you feel about the word addiction and the word alcoholic?
Oh, so I just did a video about this recently. I wouldn't call myself an alcoholic because I could go a month or 2 months without drinking. But when I did drink, I became a different person. I'll be all or nothing. And some people would say if you can't moderate, you are technically an alcoholic. I wouldn't define myself as one. I don't really see the value in defining yourself as anything like that. So that's just made me laugh. But was I addicted? I think I've got an addictive personality. I think I wasn't addicted to alcohol because I didn't even like the taste of it. I was addicted to the escapism.
Yeah.
And I think, and someone said this to me recently, that if you don't find out what that is, that's missing, you know, this thing I talk about, what's missing, you will always trying to like replace that with something. To the point where I was playing paddle tennis that obsessively that I literally tore all my ligaments. Like I was literally becoming obsessed. And we've got this app.
It
and
is
everything.
great though.
Yeah, but it's just, again, my addictive personality. So it's like you're always trying to fill that void. And if it's not that, it's work. So I don't necessarily think I was addicted to alcohol. I would say I've just got an addictive personality.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
I think the word alcoholic is really filthy, and I think that it comes with images of being hammered on a park bench, you know, like in the middle of the day for all to see. And I think that describing yourself as an alcoholic could actually stop the majority of people who think they might need help from seeking the help that they want, because it's a huge step to throw yourself into that space of being an alcoholic. I think if you want to look at me and my drinking habits and call me an alcoholic, fine. If I would go and see someone on Harley Street and they say, oh, you're an alcoholic, no worries. I don't really care like what I'm called or how it's phrased, but I think the majority of people probably would feel that they would not want to be described as an alcoholic. And I think that, I think alcohol dependency is certainly one thing, and that is not to be taken lightly. And, you know, those people need all the help that they can get, and that's a very serious issue. But I think just the word alcoholic is misused, and I think it's should change if possible.
Makes sense,
Not
yeah.
quite
It's
sure
hard
how
though,
to change
because
it, but it should
some
change.
people find having that label really empowering. So some people I speak to, when I kind of say, oh, we should be moving away from that, are like, no, that's my label and I want to use it. And for once I'm kind of owning that I've got this problem with problematic relationship with alcohol. So it's hard to then say you can't use that label. So I think it's about people using the label that like fits them. And
Can I ask a question? Because you went sober in 2018.
Yeah.
And I think right now there's a bit of a social, a sobriety awareness now. It's almost becoming a little bit cool to be sober. Whereas when
Very cool, Scott.
when you did it though,
Not
have
cool.
you seen the change over time?
Yeah, 100%. I think so. When I first, the place I see it most noticeable, when I first stopped drinking, I was single, so I was on the apps, and people's responses when
going
I
on for a
like
sober day.
strangers when I told them I didn't drink 5.5 years ago, it was like I'd grown a second head. Like the amount
I'd be fuming if I turned up to a date.
yeah,
and you
like,
sober.
oh my god, like so boring. Can't believe like just
I say
awful
that?
things. Yeah.
No, but I'm with you though.
And literally, I used to tell people
Not now.
have fun because I'd be worried about their reaction like on the day. okay. But then I was single again like 3 years later. I went back and I said it's like 6 degrees of sober separation now. Everyone knows a sober person. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't drink.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, my friend doesn't drink, or my uncle
Back
doesn't
then,
drink.
though, you're right.
Like, but yeah,
Yeah.
back then. And there also weren't alternatives either. So I literally had, like, I'm not going to say the brands, but like a really awful non-alcoholic beer or Diet Coke. Those are literally the
Yeah.
choices.
I think it's moved from being a trend to a movement.
Yeah.
Like it's very accepted now to not drink, I think. And I think it's evident everywhere. Like, we sometimes have people coming around for Sunday lunch, and my parents will
Like,
come
we
over.
never have wine in the
There-
house,
there
and
won't
people are
be-
like, where's the wine? I'm like, I just didn't even think about getting
No, but
wine.
it's not even where's the wine. Like, we'll even say, like, does anybody want some red wine
Right.
with lunch? And literally everyone just goes, no, I'm fine for that.
Yeah.
And like, my parents aren't big drinkers, but like, it's strange. It's very different. Like, we would have easily motored through like 4 or 5 bottles of red with a group of kind of 10
Yeah.
people every single time that we had a roast. And it's no longer really feels, and they're not being kind to me or you. It's just people don't want to spend their weekends inebriated as much.
Yeah.
Perhaps that's how it feels to me anyway.
I always describe like sobriety as a little bit like taking a limitless pill. Because
Yeah.
you feel it's unstoppable. However, I don't
To
also
become as good looking as Bradley Cooper.
Oh, I hope so, with them eyes. But I also don't think we should glamorize sobriety to the extent where it can be tough. Like, when you talked about growth is tough. Like, being alone, like, the most difficult thing for me at first was being alone with myself all the time, my own thoughts, and like having to face yourself every single day. Like, there's a lot of growth that comes from that, but it's not always easy as well.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes when we talk about sobriety, I think over time, yes, it becomes a superpower, but there is that kind of like constant growth, like, do you know what I mean? And I think
Yeah.
in order to balance that, you need to find natural ways to be able to calm down, switch off, and everything else, which is something that I've not fully mastered yet.
What, did any of you ever need like proper help and support in the form of rehab or anything like that?
Not rehab, but I've had a therapist now for years, but he never ever told me not to drink.
Yeah.
He didn't believe in that. And to be fair, I made the most progress when I took it into my own hands and didn't drink. I was like, so why didn't you tell me? But yeah, I've always had a therapist for like 8 years. I think everybody should have a therapist. I think it's so important to go in there and just
Who
talk
else
to
do you
them.
offload on?
That's what I mean. And someone's like kind of completely objective as well. But I didn't know. That's what I mean. That's why I don't really define myself as an alcoholic in that sense, because I didn't ever have to go to rehab or anything like that. But I don't really know the answer to that.
It's the first thing I say to friends of mine who have therapy, like when they're telling me about problems in their life or whatever, I always just say to them straight away, it's like, are you drinking at the moment? And they're just like, well, yeah, like, you know, I'll have the odd drink like here and there. And I'm just like, well, stop doing that and go to therapy, because it will help. It's like your mind is a completely different thing with or without alcohol. Like for me, it was a whopping great big difference. Like the things that I was able to go out and achieve, like, if, you know, in my own thing, not on a global scale or whatever, but just like the things that I was able to do with my time and the focus that I was, you know, able to achieve sober versus when I used to drink all the time was like two completely different people. Like the people wouldn't even like each other. Like this person here would have no time for this person here. Like I'd have no time for this chat. I wouldn't care at all what this guy had to say. Like, you know, and if time were warped and I met myself 5 years ago, I would have nothing.
You would not want to hang out with
I'd have nothing to say to that person.
I had to hang out with that person for ages.
But that's so funny saying.
Beyond repair, they say. Yeah. I'd literally just look at you and say, you know what, mate, you're a bit past it all. I think there's no helping you.
Do you find people prefer you since you gave up drinking?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
To the point where it annoyed me the other night. I went out and they were like, basically, now I'm so like, they were basically just saying, yeah, do you remember that time when you did that? And I thought he liked me. He was like, honestly, mate, I couldn't stand you. And I was like, yeah, I can tell you now, can't you? Because you're over it. I was like, yeah, you can, but this hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's just mad how in the space, literally in the space of 6 months, I went from being the ultimate like party boy and being like the craziest guy on a night out to launching my own wellness brand, getting in the best shape of my life. And I always could like envisage it. Like even today, I kind of said, this is pretty like crazy this, because even when I was struggling with my relationship to alcohol, I was filming like content, trying to tell my story, because I thought there's so many people like us, especially back then, and there wasn't enough voices. And people didn't understand. They were like, just sort it out, Scott. You can do something about it. But imagine telling someone who can't handle drink in a world where everybody expects you to drink
Yeah.
to sort your head out. Like, I was constantly conflicted because everywhere I went, if you got a new job, if it was your birthday, if someone died, everybody, you just got drunk. That was our culture.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, well, you just kind of sort it out. It's like, I couldn't.
How do you avoid that temptation though?
I think avoiding temptations, it's about channeling your energy into different areas. For me, it was like first step for me was getting in the best shape of your life. Like that's that, because I think that then just like forces you into areas, other areas, and gives you that kind of all that energy you've got. If you focus to getting in the best shape of your life, and then that means you're going to have a clear mind, you're going to be optimized. But I think avoiding temptation, I don't actually think that's a long-term way to live. I think you've got to kind of throw yourself into those different environments in order to get those skills. I think if you cannot, like I've got a couple of mates now, and I love watching them. It's the first year they're going sober, and they're just like tunnel vision, doing triathlons, doing this and that. And it's all great. I get it, and it's part of the journey, but it's not also real life, if that makes sense.
What about you, Millie? Because you're sober for nearly 6 years, so like you do avoid it.
Yeah, I think, like you said, I do throw myself into situations. I try not to avoid it because I think that way you can sometimes make it scarier than it is. Like I hear a lot of people that stop drinking and then they're like, I'm not going to go out for like 6 months. And when it comes to going out, they're like, oh God, I've like left it so long now. I think you can overthink it. But yeah, I think like non-alcoholic options are so good. Like I'm so happy that kind of arena is expanding because I just think so much of drinking is habit. Like it'll be like, oh, Friday night after work, it's a habit. Go and open the fridge, crack open a bottle of wine. To have those alternatives, you can do the same habit, but you're just changing what's in your glass. I think
Didn't you do a sober disco?
Yes, yeah.
What was that like?
Dry disco. We've got another one in December, so we do an
Dry
alcohol-free club night at Ministry of Sound, which is
so how does that
very
unfold?
good fun.
Like what happens?
Well, that's the thing. Everyone walks
I'm
in
surprised
like,
I'll let you do it because they make so much money off the booze.
Yeah, well, they're really.
Is it a
I think
daytime disco?
It is a daytime
Clico
disco.
needs to sponsor this.
Yeah.
And we need DJs as well.
There you go, I'm in.
Everybody's
Someone on the dance floor. We're all going.
and I'll PR it.
I promise
Ideal.
you, if you'd have walked in there at the last one, you would have no idea that the people there were not drinking. Like, and don't get me wrong, first of all, everyone comes in terrified. Like, they're walking in like, oh my God, whereas normally people will come into a club like having had a healthy amount of pre-drinks. These people come in and they're like
I was
looking
steaming
around.
before I even got there.
A few hours later, they are dancing. One girl took her top off. She was dancing around in a bra. It was like, it's the best day ever. Like, I think people just settle into
Sounds good.
situations. Yeah.
We did a
I remember
party
that
at the
one.
box, and
Yeah.
we
Really?
had,
It was
we had,
wild.
we had,
There was a lot of ping pong balls I heard.
Yeah,
flying
Yes.
about,
we
yeah.
had like 300, 400 people or something, and like it was a completely dry bar, and
Wow.
like people were like completely on one, you know.
Yeah, they were.
I remember that actually, and it was.
Do you
Well,
think
of
it's-
course I remember it.
But it comes
was
back
good.
to then strength in numbers then. So obviously you used to drink because that's what everybody did. But if you go into an environment where everyone's kind of sober, maybe that makes you feel more comfortable just to be you anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we give a lot of credit to alcohol. I think you're like, oh, you know, I'll have this drink and then I'll ease into the situation. But I've been to so many like non-alcoholic events now that actually it just, you ease into any situation once you get comfortable with your surroundings. Like I'm sure when we all got here, like we're all way more comfortable now than when we first got here.
Yeah.
But we give that credit to the alcohol, but actually it's just getting used to the people you're with and your surroundings, and you just like everyone starts getting chattier and louder, and it continues just going up.
I think it comes down to confidence in your own skin though.
Yeah.
Does that
Do you
make
find?
sense?
Do you think though that life is less exciting without it?
I was saying this before, though, wasn't I? Like some of my craziest stories. No, because I'm conflicted because
Yeah.
like I said, when I sit down with all my pals and we talk about the good times, like even today I barely laugh like some of the stuff that we got up to. And I don't have those same moments now, and I don't think it's a bad thing. Like, but I'm still not drawn to go back to it. But at the same time, it's a different kind of excitement. But is it real excitement? Like, is it really like was I actually? Because I was so like inebriated me when I was drinking. Like, was that even me? Like, is that even real fun? Is it artificial fun? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
The weekends used to be. It must have been very different. How do you spend your weekends now?
Mine kind of look the same, just not as like partying as hard, I think,
Yeah.
and waking up the next day being really hungover. I think I just pack more in. But
Would you be still going out till like 2 a.m. with your friends?
no, not always. But if it's like someone's hen do or a birthday, then I'll happily like do it. I think I just have more time. Like there's more now in the day. My weekends were just purely evening based. It was all revolving around getting ready for the evening. Whereas now I do the evening, then I wake up.
You
and
live
then
for the
I'm like-
mornings now.
Yeah, you have a whole day. Like you just get so much.
You get up at 8 and you're like, oh
time.
my God, it's so late.
Yeah. And I'm like you. I'm constantly like my brain, it just doesn't switch off. So I'm always trying new things to get myself to switch off. And I think rather than choosing like one thing, I'm like, this is the thing that helps me switch off. I'll just try everything. So I'm like, this weekend I'm going to try paddleboarding and see how that goes. Next week I'm going to try like whitewater rafting and see how that goes. Like, I don't think it's necessarily, I need to find my one thing. I'll just do different things. That I find helpful because it's like a constant exploration of things that help you switch off.
Yeah. Do you still find a pressure off people? You probably don't now because you've been sober so long, but a pressure to drink?
Not off my friends. It always comes off strangers. Like if I'm in a bar or someone comes over and speaks to me, that it's always strangers that have the negative reactions. And obviously, 'cause of what I do is talking about it constantly. All the like negative comments are from strangers.
It's more a reflection, a negative reflection of them, though. I think.
Yeah,
than
but
it is
I
on
was
you.
that person as well, so I don't
Yeah.
take it to heart because I was the person who was always like,
What drinking?
yeah,
Give it a
drink
shot.
more, like do it quicker. So now when people say it to me, I'm like, because a lot of it for me was like, I want everyone else to be as drunk as I am, so they don't notice
Yeah.
how drunk I am. So when I'm really able to like detach if people do say negative things. It just honestly, it doesn't even like.
Nobody, if they're a close friend of yours, should take any issue with you trying to drink less alcohol or not drink at all. So, like, if you're somebody that is sober curious or who's trying to give up drinking, if you have close friends who are getting in the way of that I would say is a really bad sign for that friendship.
Makes sense. Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
Like when it used to be a big problem for me, right? So it's not like I just decided, oh, hey, I'm going to drink less. Like it was kind of like I had to drink less. I would have lost you. I think I would have lost work. I could have died, right? Like not to be overly dramatic, but like that's the kind of way that excessive drinking on your own can take you. And so you make the choice, you make the decision. And there wasn't a single person in my immediate group who thought that was lame, because I think they were all worried for me anyway. You know, so it's kind of
You had gotten to the point where it was
music. It was kind of
in the
music to
way.
their ears. I had a lot of disbelief. Like, oh, okay, mate, like cool.
Your
you know.
dad kept being like, because
Yeah,
his
my
dad
dad
didn't get
kept
it,
being
but
like, do you
always
want a glass of
offered
champagne? Do you want a glass of wine? I'm like, I'm sober. Like every single time I'd see him, like we'd be at something and he'd be like, are you having a glass? Like, I've been sober for 3 years.
Wow.
Like, I haven't drank alcohol in 3 years. Why would I have a glass of champagne with you now? Although I would now.
Do you still like? That's the comment I get. Are you still not drinking? The emphasis on the still.
Yeah, I still get that, but that's because I think I did go sober and then like kind of went back to the dark side.
Did you find when you went back to the dark side, did you go back as hard as you were, or had you figured out a better
No, I didn't go
path?
as hard as I did, but every time I drank, the lows were horrific.
Yeah.
Even when I didn't do anything wrong, like I remember I was in Tulum and I went out, I had this best night out ever. And then I used to hate myself the next day because I'd become someone different and I'd upset people. But I went on this night out, I was in control, I was like pleasant to be around. But the next day I was like rock bottom, full of anxiety. I was like, my body's just saying, Scott, like this isn't for you anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's necessarily like my body, but almost like my conscience telling me like, if you want to get to where you want to get to. And literally in 1 year being sober, I achieved probably more than I did in 10 years.
Yeah.
Like honestly, like my life changed that quickly. And again, this year has been the same. And it's just, I think like I mentioned before, I just want to get to a certain milestone in my life where I go, I've at least reached my potential. And I also think it sounds like cheesy, but I think I've got this platform and everything. I've got to kind of share my story. It's weird because, like I said, I was even filming content when I was still drinking, thinking, I wish people would know what I'm going through right now. And I think, it's just kind of like the mission I'm on.
Well, it's funny because so much of the younger generation, it's nearly a third of 16 to 20-year-olds don't drink at all. Like none of them. Why do you think that is?
It's weird. So, like for example, even when I first came out of Love Island in 2016, right? I remember it was still cool to be out on your social stories, Instagram, posting bottles and everything else. When do you ever see that anymore?
Never.
You will not see any of these youngsters now, or anyway, it's almost like I went to a club but don't even say I was there.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Whereas it's kind of changed, and I think the youngsters now are being fed about kind of like almost like self-development, get your business when you're young, which I don't necessarily think is completely positive because I think they should enjoy like their youth as well. But yeah, I just think it's massively changed now, and we've kind of been part of that kind of that generational cross, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I do think
Because
that there
everything is so online.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of like, do you want to most people on social media want to put their best foot forward, and being drunk isn't your best foot forward.
No.
Right, so it's not like entertaining anymore to be drunk, really. It's kind of looks more like
It's
a
like
hindrance.
smoking. Like you'd never go out. Like anyone, if I see someone smoking in the street, I'm like, oh, I don't know why. It's like, it's not, I feel like there's no real pressure on people to drink anymore. I even think with all of us, I think that the pressure is less. It's not like you go to work all day, then you go to the pub straight after it. Not everybody does that.
I think
So-
what we're seeing as well is a lot of young girls that come to our meetups have been put off by their parents drinking because they're coming at like 18, 19. Their parents are like 40, 45. They've gone through that like really heavy Nadette drinking generation. So first of all, to them, it's not cool because their parents do it. And secondly, a lot of them have seen parents that have had kind of destructive drinking. So that's put them
Yeah.
off as well.
Do
That's a lot
you
of
also
stories
not
we
think that
hear.
they're not socialising as much as we did because everything's like through being connected online, so they're not actually getting together in like physically as much as used to? Because I think I heard as well that they're not having like as much sex and stuff like that at a certain age. And I just think like we used it as a social lubricant.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like this conversation we're having now, like it's so rare when you do podcasts because how often you just sit in quite an intense environment.
Yeah.
I mean, I do one with my brothers. I'm like, we never talk like this. Do you know what I mean?
We feel like we're on a date whenever we do
Yeah,
ours.
we're like, wow, we've got all this free time to
An
ourselves.
hour and a half to have a chat.
Yeah. So I think like obviously the youngsters aren't socialising like we did, and in order to socialise, we probably use that as a social lubricant to kind of
Yeah.
make it a lot smoother. But I think there's loads of different factors.
That's probably why we were having more sex back then. 'Cause it was
Yes.
like
Yeah.
you just had that alcohol to kind of.
100%.
I didn't have any sex. I didn't have any sex before you.
I think we have plenty of sex.
No, there's no sex before anything
no,
before
no,
us.
there's
That
plenty.
is brilliant.
It's a good relationship.
Scott, you inspired your mom to quit drinking. How did you do that?
Do you know what? That's probably my proudest achievement because my mum, she hates me saying this, but I'll just say how it is. Like
Tough luck, man.
she was drinking every night. Like as a kid, I remember coming in, and she wasn't like I would call her. I can't even say she hates me calling this. Actually, I would say she was functioning. Like she'd basically just have. It wasn't like a big problem, but every night I'd come in. My memory of my mum was she was sat there with a glass of wine every night, watching soaps and everything else. And she did that for like 20 odd years. And when I went sober, for some reason, at the same time, she said, I'm going to do it with you. And I was like, oh, okay, mum, like, because I just thought it's impossible because it's such a long habit. And anyway, I did my year. She did it alongside me. And then she stayed sober. She's now 3.5 years sober.
Really?
And she is glowing. Like when I say,
Sorry, you're all glowing, by the way.
no,
I noticed your
Thank
skin.
you.
my mum has knocked like 20 years off her. Like honestly, she looks unbelievable. She's so much better to be around. She's a better grandmother. She's just like that is probably my proudest achievement. Like
Yeah.
because I did try and do it with my brother Adam, but he lasted 6 weeks.
That's not the worst.
He
6 weeks in that case, then.
He actually, Adam, I've got to talk about it. He actually puts it on his Instagram when he's going to do it, and literally deletes it like the next week.
I did that on my podcast, and I swear to God, I drank more. I was like, I'm giving up alcohol. And then I was like, oh God, I was hungover 2 days later. I was like, damn it, I shouldn't have said anything. Last question. This is for all of you. What advice or words of encouragement would you like to give a sober, curious person that might be intimidated by all of this? Keep us all sober.
I would say, first of all, set yourself a long enough target, but also a realistic one. And for me, 3 months is the sweet spot. I think in 3 months you can achieve a lot and you don't miss out on too much that you're probably going to think you're going to miss out on. And just, again, it goes back to just make a decision with yourself that you're going to do it. You've got to really mean it as well. And it sounds so simple, but if you can look yourself in the mirror and go, do you know what, this time I'm going to do this 3 month period and I'm not going to just give in at the drop of a hat. I just think like you've got to be serious about it. And it sounds so simple, but I can't articulate it as well. Like you've got to
I'd
mean
say
it.
follow people like you as well who are all like on sober journeys in your different ways. And like I honestly think that would be helpful to see how other people are doing it.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my tip. Was
Yeah.
use all the resources because, like, we're in a really good time. Like we were saying, when I first stopped drinking, there wasn't anything really. Now there's like books, podcasts, there's like blogs, there's influencers, there's so like many tools at your disposal. Like even if every day you listen to like 30 minutes of a podcast about sobriety, or the next day you try a non-alcoholic option, like just keep engaging with it constantly. I think is really, really helpful.
Yep. Start right now. So don't kind of wait for the right time, in inverted commas. Just start it. You won't regret it. As Millie said, there's loads of fantastic alternatives outside of my business as well. But there are so many ways of keeping the exact same habits that you have always had. If you're a gin and tonic drinker, mix yourself a gin and tonic. Just use a non-alcoholic gin. You might love it. And you might find that it's that ritual that you love and not necessarily the alcohol. If you are thinking about drinking less, there is a reason for that. So drinking is a personal thing. And if you're feeling that you should lift your foot off the gas a bit, then that's probably a sign to lift your foot off the gas a bit. So I wouldn't wait. I'd get stuck in and I'd enjoy all of the numerous benefits that sobriety or Sober Curiosity has to offer.
Well, thank you all very much.
Oh, thank you. I've enjoyed it.
You've inspired me.
Oh,
I'm going to do it again. This is
Yeah.
my accountability. And that's the end of another fantastic episode of Taboo Talk. We really hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much to my amazing guests for being up for this conversation. Millie Gooch, Scott Thomas, and of course, Spenno. If you enjoyed this ep, please do rate, review, and subscribe. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, please do like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps. Until next time.